Welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. Today I want to share with you a story that I have told for years. I love it. It's called The Valentine Bears by Eve Bunting. And as you can probably tell by the cover, this is a little bit worn because I have used it so many times. But it is a cute story about bears. Now, before we start, there's something I bet all of you know. February, when we have Valentine's Day, bears aren't usually awake. They're usually asleep. They're hibernating. Well, these two are. And let's see where we go. It was October 14th, and the bear's den was snug and secure for the winter. Mrs. Bear set her alarm for February the 14th. Then she curled herself up comfortably next to Mr. Bear's back, and she listened to his snores. It was good enough to settle down for a long 4 months' sleep. When the alarm went off 4 months later, Mrs. Bear could hardly believe it. It just seemed like she'd gone to bed. Oh my, she thought to herself, spring already? Oh, but then she remembered it wasn't spring yet. She had set the alarm for a very special reason. Mrs. Bear stretched, scratched, kissed Mr. Bear on his nose, and got up. Mr. Bear could sleep through just about anything, and she was so glad, because she had things to do. First, she made the sign. It's nice to share Valentine's Day with someone you love. Then she tacked the sign up on the wall so Mr. Bear would see it the instant he awoke. Leaves had blown into the den while they slept, so Mrs. Bear brushed them off and out into a pile and swept them outside. "Brrr," she said, standing in front of the den. "You'd think they'd put this special day in the summer. Mr. Bear and I have never shared a Valentine's Day in all of our years together." Mrs. Bear dug up the honey pot she had buried in the fall. She pawed off the lid and smiled. It was fruity and rich. It smelled of summer, just the way Mr. Bear liked it. Mrs. Bear carried the pot inside and put it on the table next to the bowl of crunchy, dried beetles and bugs. Oh, crispy critters! How Mr. Bear loved crispy critters! Doesn't sound very good to me. She had made 2 Valentine poems way back in the summer, and now she got them out of her drawer. One read, "Red berries are red, blueberries are blue, termites are sweet, and you are too." And the other one read, "Your teeth are so sharp, your claws are so fine, dear Mr. Bear, you are my Valentine." She couldn't decide which of these poems she liked the best, so she decided to give them both to Mr. Bear. Mrs. Bear huddled herself deep in her coat and went outside again. "Only crazy creatures would be out this time of year. Oh, it's too early," she muttered. The sun shone through a haze pale as milk. Crows cawed in the white air. The arms of the trees scratched at the sky. Mrs. Bear clawed away the ice on the top of the pond. She splashed water on her ears and muzzle. She sleeked her head fur and took a long, cold drink. It was time to wake Mr. Bear. Mr. Bear's snores drifted from the den, and she smiled. Mr. Bear could sleep through almost anything. Mrs. Bear shook his shoulder. "Time to wake up, Mr. Bear," snorted Mr. Bear. Mrs. Bear shook harder. "Wake up, Mr. Bear." Mr. Bear shrugged her away and turned his face to the wall. "Oh, just another 5 more weeks, just another 5 more weeks," he said. Mrs. Bear poked his back. "Happy Valentine's Day." Mr. Bear curled himself into a fur ball. He said. "Oh, no, you don't," said Mrs. Bear, and she pulled Mr. Bear's ears until he uncurled himself. She tickled his paws. She pried open his eyes, and she watched them drop again. Closed. Mr. Bear said. Mrs. Bear sighed. She took their empty berry can, snuggled deep in her coat, and went back outside. A wolverine slept safe in a hollow log. A deer drank from the pond. It stopped drinking and looked at Mrs. Bear with surprise as she was filling the berry can. Mrs. Bear decided the deer probably had never seen a bear up and about so early. She carried the can of the iced water back inside, and she said, "I'm sorry about this, Mr. Bear, but you cannot keep on sleeping. This is a very special day. 1, 2, 3. Surprise! Mr. Bear shouted and sat straight up. And it was a surprise, all right. Mrs. Bear jumped and the ice water splashed all over her. Mr. Bear hugged her. "You thought I could sleep through just about anything, didn't you?" he boomed. "Well, I fooled you. Happy Valentine's Day." And he pulled a box from under his pillow. "I've had these here all along." "Oh, Mr. Bear, chocolate-covered ants, my very favorite." Mr. Bear licked his lips. Mine too." He admired the sign on the wall, and then Mrs. Bear ran for the poems, and Mr. Bear read them aloud. "Dear Mr. Bear, you are my Valentine." "Oh, that's lovely." His nose wrinkled. "Is that fruity, rich summer honey I smell?" Mrs. Bear smiled. "Will you join me at the table?" They sat together sharing the Valentine treats till shadows filled the den and the bowl and the box, and the honey pot were emptied, and the special day was ended. And then they went back to sleep again and slept until the spring. The end. I hope you enjoyed my favorite book called The Valentine Bears. Thank you.